profession.
Hey folks, so this was today's coronavirus press briefing by the government, today being the 15th of January 2021. So Chief Medical Officer Chris Whitty and Chief Scientific Advisor Sir Patrick Vallance explain the peak and when it's going to occur. I'm actually going to do a longer video on this to sort of go in depth with my own analysis and thoughts on it. So hopefully you might find that interesting. If you do, subscribe and please like this video down below and leave a comment on what you think on the current situation. Stay safe, and I'll catch you later.
Your question to us, the peak of the to Patrick and me, we expect the peak of the infections to occur. We hope already has happened in some parts of the country, particularly east of England and London, where there was initially a really big surge with the new variant. And it is fantastic that that is beginning to happen, and thanks to what everyone has done. Other areas that went into lockdown a bit later, the peak of the infections will be later, but the peak of hospitalizations is delayed usually by maybe around a week from the peak of infections. That's pushed because it takes a while between people first getting infected to getting ill enough to go to hospital. So that peak will be a bit later in every area of the country, a bit later than the peak of infections. And then the peak of deaths, unfortunately, is a bit later still. So the peak of deaths, I fear, is in the future. The peak of hospitalizations in some parts of the country may be around about now and beginning to come off the very, very top, but at an incredibly high rate, and I cannot stress that enough. And because a lot of people are going to stay in hospital, the peak of people in hospital is later than the peak of people coming into hospital. So that peak, again, will be slightly delayed. And in parts of particularly the north and the southwest, for example, the peak will be later than it is in east of England, southeast, and in London. But all of these, because people are sticking so well to the guidelines, we do think that the peaks are coming over the next probably a week to 10 days for most places in terms of new people into hospital. That would be the expectation.
The only thing I would add to that is it's worth remembering this is not a natural peak that's going to come down on its own. It's coming down because of the measures that are in place. Take the lid off now, this is going to boil over for sure, and we'll end up with a big problem. And that is a lesson, I think, about making sure it's all cooled down enough before you get to that position. So I don't think we should view the peak as a natural turning point in the disease. It is a suppressed peak that we need to keep on top of.
Thanks very much, Hugh. Libby Veen, ITV.